let's talk about Doki and my problem with commentary. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to a brand new episode of the Square Circle Podcast. I am your host, Marie Shadows, and we are continuing to talk about Wrestle Kingdom 20 with going over this fatal four-way match of El Desperado versus Taiji Ishimori versus Sho versus Kosei for the number one contender for Doki's Junior Heavyweight Championship title. Please listen to this whole entire episode with an open mind, because the moment that people have become brainwashed will always want to be in their own bubble and not try to understand a broader perspective or just a different way of thinking or looking at something. If you don't want to listen to this, that's totally fine. But I just don't like the way that commentary is, because in this current climate of 2026, even in 2025, or maybe even going back longer, who knows? I always know that there are people that are always going to give a lecturing type of tone when they feel like whatever someone says, someone should not have said it, but they feel very obligated to give you a lecture on it so you could be within their bubble of this utopia of that we all have to think the same way and we all have to be happy for others. Now, I'm going to give you a little bit of advice, because human nature is not like that. Human nature is not coordinated on making everybody feel happy, making everybody feel welcome, and making everybody feel like it's a utopia without any kind of problems. And listen to the key phrase, making everyone. We are not here to be robots. We are not here to be foot soldiers. We are not here to be in a bubble where we all have to be happy for each other, where we all have to sing Kumbaya, and we all have to agree that wrong is whatever it is. Like, we don't have to agree on everything. I'm trying to find the right words for this, because it is a very complicated conversation to have in general, but just for the other side to feel like they're superior to people that don't give a shit about the lectures, but they still want to lecture people and don't understand the pushback. There's a reason why I have my own individuality. There's a reason why my fan base has their own individuality. We all have different individualities. We all have different experiences. We all have different types of moments, and we all have different types of decision makings when it comes to being faced and challenged with decisions. Where in any of that in human history and in the human makeup and in our brains, where does that mean that we need to all be together and we all need to agree with the same thing? Now, you might be wondering, what kind of rant am I going on? So let's look into my notes, right? For this fatal four-way, because I'm going to talk about the fatal four-way, but I also want to talk about commentary, because I'm getting tired of having to listen to lectures, having to listen to fake outrage, having to listen to woke bullshit, having to listen to the stuff that doesn't really matter when you're supposed to be calling a match, telling a story in the match. And again, I really don't want to get on people. I don't. But, you know, whatever happened to commentators actually playing off of what wrestlers say? Why does it need to be this sort of like clapback superiority? You got to be happy for this person. If not, I'm going to just talk about it on commentary that has nothing to do with anything. You know, so for example, right? Because people, not really for example, because this is like verbatim of what Doki said, and then it was being talked about on commentary. So Doki, he came out first, right? Because he's going to be watching the four men that I had said earlier, who's going to be the number one contender for his championship title. So Doki, being part of House of Torture, we know this already, is a heel. And Doki is doing a very fantastic job being part of House of Torture and being a heel. He's doing a fantastic job. And him as champion is right. I like that he's champion. So according to Walker, because Walker had said what Doki had said on commentary. So according to Walker, he said, and he's quoting Doki, "I'm not wrestling to not overshadow Tana's retirement." And I don't remember the exact words that Walker used to talk about this, but it was a lecture. It was basically like, oh, come on now. He can't be doing that. He can't be saying that. How dare he say that? You know, giving a very fake, not genuine reaction to what Doki said. So instead of trying to lecture people on like, oh my God, we should be happy that it's Tana's retirement, it shouldn't be disrespectful. How disrespectful is Doki? Most people who are young, dumb, stupid, and brainwashed will definitely tell you that something is disrespectful when it's really not disrespectful. This could be just Doki's opinion because Doki is a champion. Doki is heel. In professional wrestling, we have heels, which are bad guys that say bad guy stuff and that say disrespectful stuff, but you know it's in kayfabe. You know that he doesn't mean it. Do not take it literally. But the young people that come into the business or just in regular jobs or just trying to disrupt, you know, quality of life, they think that everything that someone says is literal, and that's not the case. This is why if you grew up in the 80s and the 90s and maybe in the 70s, you would understand, if you did grow up then, you know, if you were able to take a time machine back then, you would understand that not everybody took everything literally, you know, but in today's climate, people take everything literally and then they want to lecture you and think is disrespectful. Again, this is Doki's opinion because he is a champion. Tanahashi is not a champion. Tanahashi is losing all of his matches on his retirement tour. And when we talked about Tanahashi versus Okada, what happened to Tanahashi? Tanahashi lost. So because Tanahashi has been on a losing streak and Doki is a heel by the definition of professional wrestling, being a bad guy and can say the most disrespectful stuff without literally meaning it, Doki has this confidence and this chip on his shoulder to say that, you know what, I'm only going to come out to watch these guys wrestle. Who's going to be the number one contender for my championship title, that junior heavyweight championship title that he got back after being injured. You know, he's feeling himself. He's cocky about it. He's confident about it. So he's just going to sit there at ringside and he's going to be like, hey, I don't need to wrestle on Wrestle Kingdom because I don't want to overshadow Tanahashi's retirement. Whenever Doki gets into the ring, what are we doing? We are praising Doki. We are talking about Doki in the matches that he has because Doki ends up having these matches where he goes in and he shows up and he shows out. Tanahashi does the same thing too, but the reception online is basically like, yo, Tana's old, his knees are banged up, he could barely walk, he could barely do this. So, you know, you can see the different comparison. You have a young guy like Doki being a heel, and that's all he's being a heel. Why does Walker need to have this sudden urge to try to take it personally and have the airways be flooded with a lecture and then trying to get a conversation out of Chris Charlton on his thoughts about what Doki has said? And there's no pushback. There's no heel commentator, even though I'm not 100% a fan of like a babyface / heel commentator unless it's done right and it can work really smoothly together. But there's no pushback to Walker to be like, dude, Doki's a fucking heel. He's in House of Torture. He's on the top of the mountain. He is a champion. He can say what he wants. And that is what his opinion is. It's not like a fact that you have to try to disprove. To say that I'm not wrestling to not overshadow Tanahashi's retirement, that is someone's belief. That is someone's opinion because they think so highly of themselves, in this case, Doki. Doki is not saying that as a fact. If Doki had said something along the lines of a fact, then yes, please push back. Just don't lecture. Push back to try to be like, oh, that's a very false claim. That's not really a fact. These are the facts and this is what it is, blah, blah, blah. But to sort of lecture somebody on someone's opinion, on someone's belief, you are destroying the character that Doki is trying to create. And like I said in the episode of me talking about Tanahashi versus Okada, that, I now understand why Vince McMahon was in the ears of the commentators to make sure that bullshit wasn't said on air or the wrong thing wasn't said on air. And I understand that that built a lot of anxiety for other commentators because someone is in your ear yelling at you, telling you information, and you still have to remain calm, cool, and collective and natural to have, the commentating, talking experience and all that. Like, it has to come out natural. And now I really, really understand why. Because again, Walker just goes off on these little tiny side quests of filling the airwaves with woke shit and lecturing. And, I just want to be immersed in New Japan's story. I want to be immersed into what's happening with the wrestlers, what's happening in the ring. Did someone say in their backstage comments something that's damning and you want to talk about it, but you need to weave it into what's happening in the ring and why they said what they said. That's exactly what Doki was doing. Doki, if he said what I just read out, that I'm not wrestling to not overshadow Tanahashi's retirement, a good commentator would have told the audience, oh, this is what Doki said if you guys did not get the memo. And this is my response. The response should have been, well, it looks like Tana didn't have faith in you to have a match on the Wrestle Kingdom card, or, he threw away his chance at getting on the Wrestle Kingdom card because that's disrespectful to Tanahashi. Something like that. Not trying to lecture the fans about, oh my God, don't be disrespectful. It's Tanahashi's retirement. We're all going to sing Kumbaya and be happy for him. Like, stop with that bullshit of I have to be in your circle of happiness when you're not even happy. That's just me talking in generalities. That's not a personal attack. None of this is a personal attack. This is more on how can commentary improve, because I'm a little just over it. This is why sometimes I just want to listen to the Japanese commentary and not the English commentary, because even as I talk about this, and it might sound ranting, it probably is ranting, most people are not going to understand because they already made up their minds that this guy is good. Walker can be good. It's just, you got to stop with this young attitude of how you want to talk about commentary through the lens of how maybe you see the world, how maybe you talk to a lot of people and have a lot of experiences. Again, I'm not taking that away, but for commentating, it needs to be about the wrestling. It needs to be about the stories. It needs to be about the wrestlers. It does not need to be about any personal stuff outside of wrestling. So, for example, if like one of the wrestlers are doing something to you during the tour, then yeah, you could definitely be like, well, this wrestler has been messing with me forever and blah, blah, blah. Like, you can include that, right? Because it's happening within the bubble of professional wrestling. But to sort of just have a lecturing tone about, oh, this is disrespectful, that's disrespectful, how dare Doki say this? And it's like, did you forget that he's a heel? Did you forget that heel wrestlers do heel things? This is why in today's wrestling, it's really sad that wrestlers cannot be a heel anymore, because people are going to take it literally and people are going to be like, he doesn't like me. Oh my God, I'm never going to buy his merchandise. Or, they can't be a heel because someone is going to complain and be like, we don't do that. That's bullying. But yet then you turn around and on Twitter, you're bullying somebody else. You're dunking on somebody else. You're being clowning on somebody else. Like, it's very stupid and hypocritical that you want to put a hold and a leash on entertainment that is supposed to make you forget about the idiotic stuff that's happening in 2026, but then go online and bully other people. So you'll tell a wrestler to stop bullying somebody while they're being a heel, but then turn around and go on social media and bully somebody else because they don't agree with you. And this is not supposed to get into that type of content or that type of rant, but it's just like, bro, What is happening with professional wrestling? If you are in professional wrestling, you should be a professional commentator and learn how to interweave something that Doki says, I'm not wrestling to overshadow Tanahashi's retirement, into story, into storytelling, into kayfabe. It's very similar to when I was watching JCW Lunacy and Veda Scott was on commentary comms with Joe Dombrowski. And there was one time where Happy, who's a big wrestler, he's a big wrestler, he came over and gave the commentary desk a burger. And here comes Veda Scott with like this backhanded slap on commentary of, that's why I'm a vegetarian. No one asked. You could have just been like, no, thank you. Or I just ate, or I'm full. Why does it have to be like, oh my God, that's meat? Oh my God, I'm going to melt. Guys, I can't look at meat. I can't smell meat. I'm a vegetarian. Oh my God, it's the end of the world. Like, why is it always so dire with people that want to lecture others, that want to be superior to others, that just want to just do backhanded comments and little snide remarks of like, oh, that's why I'm a vegetarian. Why? Why do we need this in commentary? We really don't. Professional wrestling commentary is not supposed to be an avenue or an outlet to make it about you for you to be the main character. The job of the commentator is supposed to tell us the story that's happening within the ring and also take whatever happens backstage, whatever happens during the segments, whatever happens during the promo, and put it all together in a very amazing, smooth way where wrestling fans are like, I can just immerse in the wrestling. I can immerse in my favorite wrestler. Why does commentary now have to be, I need to be an activist. I need to tell you what's on my mind. I need to take this literally. So do you. Be on board with me. Doki is bad, but you know, I don't know about heel bad. I don't know any of that. I just know that he's bad and disrespecting Tanahashi's retirement, but we all gotta be upset about it. Okay, let me get into the match now. So, as I said, that we have El Desperado versus Taiji versus Sho versus Kosei Fujita. And I will say that, why are we having these guys in this match fighting? El Desperado has been the most wrestler to get this belt. And no spoiler alert, because it already happened. El Desperado wins. He is the number one contender to fight Doki for the championship title. And I'm like, why? Put El Desperado up in the heavyweight division. Put Hiromu up in the heavyweight division, finally. This is also another thing that New Japan Pro Wrestling needs to get out of, is having repeat wrestlers go after the one title. And I totally get it that these wrestlers are within a certain type of weight class, and New Japan Pro Wrestling respects that weight class. And I totally get that. But sometimes you're going to have to switch it up and break some rules and take some risk. El Desperado does not need a number one contender title shot. Like, he doesn't need to be the next in line to get the junior heavyweight championship title. Taiji doesn't need it either. Kosei Fujita doesn't need it either. Sho, that would have been kind of funny if it was Sho versus Doki for House of Torture. I am always for good storytelling, and I think that sometimes infighting within groups can eventually lead to really good storytelling and really good character arcs and development, and then you can decide later if somebody wants to leave or not want to leave, because trust will be broken. You know, the best stories are the ones that feel like you can connect with them and they feel very personal to you. And, you know, if it's just genuine reaction, genuine back and forth confrontation, and promo wise and wrestling wise, people connect with that more. And sometimes when you have a group of friends, that happens. Trust can be broken. Two people can gain up on one person can change. Like, a lot of different dynamics can happen. And since House of Torture has everybody doing shenanigans, House of Torture does seem like it's always on the same page for everything that they do. But having Sho versus Doki will be a great wrench, all pun intended, because Sho likes to use a wrench. It would be a great wrench within House of Torture to see if House of Torture will collapse, to see if House of Torture would kick out either Sho or Doki for them to be on their way, for House of Torture to basically give us something different than trying to be the shenanigan people and all that kind of stuff where there's no change. I want characters to change. I want characters to grow. I want characters to get layers. So that way the whole character arc, when we come to like a round table and talk about, oh, let's discuss Doki and how he changed. Let's discuss Sho and how he changed. You know, I could tell you right now that Sho is way better than Yo. Sho is way better than Yo. But that's a whole nother podcast for a whole nother time. But either way, like, I would not have mind if it was Sho versus Doki. I wouldn't have mind if it was Master Wato in here or any of the other supposed juniors. Put some of the young lions in here that are juniors. You know, if Callum Newman didn't get all that muscle on him now, and he didn't bulk up, he would have been great for the junior spot to try to get a number one contender spot. But, you know, we'll talk about Callum when we get there, because, man. And then United Empire needs its own podcast episode because there's a lot to unpack. Either way, I would like to see different types of wrestlers go for the junior heavyweight championship title. I have nothing against Kosei Fujita. Kosei Fujita is fantastic. He's with Robbie Eagles and all that and tag teaming and stuff. Like, Kosei Fujita is good. But again, New Japan Pro Wrestling needs to have this rotation on just a little bit more. So in the match, we have everybody attacking Sho. And then we have the team up of Taiji and El Desperado over Kosei Fujita. But Kosei Fujita is holding his own. We get some chops to Sho. We get referee usage, meaning Sho uses him as a shield. Drop Toho, one of my favorite moves, in a submission. And then Taiji and Desperado is working together for the majority of the match. We get the Bloody Cross to El Desperado because eventually, you know, teams within this kind of fatal four-way sort of just break off and do what they got to do. And Sho suplexes, throws Kosei Fujita into the referee. So again, a referee down. So now here comes the shenanigans from House of Torture, right? We get Doki and Kanemaru. They interfere. And of course, you know, on commentary, it's going to be like, not like this, not like this. You know, like, again, how many times have we seen House of Torture do House of Torture things? Just because Doki was like, look, guys, I'm not wrestling tonight because I'm going to overshadow Tanahashi, doesn't mean that he was going to be a good boy and sit outside and watch this fatal four-way match happen, because as a good heel champion that Doki is, and Doki understands the purpose of being a heel champion, this guy's going to interfere because he doesn't want to face any one of them. So why is that a bad thing? Why do we need to be like, he shouldn't be doing that? Taiji gets hit with a pipe and then Sho uses his wrench. It's almost as if today's fans, especially on Twitter, that they all want to be in a bubble. Like, they want wrestling, they want blood, they want gore, but the moment that they feel like something is very inappropriate, they want everyone to feel the same way as them. And then commentary just tries to push that on through, and it's like, can you guys just stop? Enjoy what's happening, understand what's happening as well, and you'll enjoy wrestling. I'm not saying to enjoy all wrestling because I don't like that crowd either, but you will enjoy what New Japan is giving you, because that's what's missing, is that wrestling companies are giving you wrestling. They're giving you sports entertainment. They're giving you stuff to escape from, right? You are going to be immersed in it. It's like watching a movie. You're going to enjoy, and you're going to just realize that heels are going to do heel things. Baby faces are going to do baby face things. And we should know this already. We should know the foundation. But again, something small can trigger somebody out of nowhere, And if that happens, you might have to get that checked out, guys. But it might trigger somebody out of nowhere, and then they want everybody else to feel the same way as them. No, this is what House of Torture does. House of Torture does shenanigans. House of Torture says the most vile thing ever, and then people get upset. But yet then they want a return to heels and bad guys, but they can't fucking handle it. Anyway, Robbie Eagles and Robbie X help out in this match as well. I forget that Robbie X has joined New Japan Pro Wrestling. I forget that Robbie X is part of Bullet Club War Dogs, I believe. He joined somebody. I think he joined up with Taiji. Like, I don't remember, man, because I'm going to be very, very honest. I don't remember anything of Robbie X. I really don't. I just know that he's a wrestler. He got muscles. He's bald. And he throws up the too sweet sign. And he does flips. So I don't remember him as much. So don't get on me. But yeah, Robbie Eagles and Robbie X come out to help out their respective people. Robbie comes in with a dive. And Robbie X comes in with a moonsault. Show hits Kosei with a sign. We get shock arrow. He goes and pins Kosei. But here comes El Desperado to break it up. We get the Tiger Driver, some other finisher, and a pin. And El Desperado pins Show to become the #1 contender to Doki's Junior Heavyweight Championship at a later date. I don't remember when they're going to be fighting for it. But either way, El Desperado, again, does not need that #1 contender spot at all. He does not need it. And to pin Show sends a message to House of Torture anyway. And it's really like, you know, it could have been House of Torture versus House of Torture. That would have been a very more intriguing story to do because there's a lot of history. You could definitely go in any direction with that. You could definitely let it play out for a couple months and have Doki either upset that Show won, but let's just play this out, right? Let's just play this out in kayfabe. Let's just say that Show versus Doki was going to happen instead of Doki versus El Desperado, right? So we're on the mindset of Show versus Doki. Imagine if Doki ended up losing to Show, right? Both of these guys are still in House of Torture. And so let's say that Show ended up winning against Doki because even though Doki is great at wrestling, he does rely on others to do the interference whenever he has a match. But Show is clever and also sly. So Show uses his smarts to outsmart Doki and does some shenanigans of his own to win against Doki and become the new IWGP Junior Heavyweight Champion. And the story going out the next day, it will be, you know, the backstage comments, and Doki realizes that he needs to get better at doing the shenanigans of House of Torture because he can't just rely on wrestling alone. This is what House of Torture is good at, that no one seems to realize, that they are good wrestlers. It's just that the shenanigans and the numbers game gets to them. Now, if we ever did have a match of Show versus Doki, I wouldn't want the other members to interfere, maybe to amp up the thought process that Doki is like, okay, now I need to try to do something to learn from this experience. And then when he learns from the experience, he fights Show again, and it's an outstanding match and he gets the belt back. And then when he goes and fights like Master Wato down the line, he has more knowledge and more character arc as being a heel to basically do the worst to his opponents outside of House of Torture. And because you're adding a new layer of shenanigans, again, nobody is teaching each other in New Japan Pro Wrestling the playbook whenever they fight against House of Torture. And that's why sometimes people just have such a reaction to the shenanigans, because we're looking at it like, oh, we've seen this before. You know, how did you not see that coming? Like, we could definitely tell you their playbook. So I'm just trying to just spitball here about, like, if we did have Show versus Doki, not only will these two wrestlers elevate, but the story will elevate. The shenanigans will make more sense. And then in turn, wrestlers who fight House of Torture will now have to review the playbook of the shenanigans so they don't get caught off guard. Even baby faces can do this, and the baby faces won't even get damaged, so to speak, as much for their character. They'll be a smart baby face because they already know the playbook. And then that pushes House of Torture to get more creative with their playbook because, again, we've seen this before. We're so over it. We're so tired of it. And we could definitely be yelling about it. But if there is no change, if there is no push, if there is no challenge to the House of Torture playbook, it is going to be the same thing over and over again. And then fans are going to get into their little box and bubble and be like, we hate House of Torture no matter what. So this is why it could be a very good story sometime later down the line, like, I don't know, to have Sho versus Doki. And that would have elevated everybody. That would have made interesting conversations, interesting talking points. We could have talked about like what path House of Torture could go on, what are their opponents going to do, how they're going to do this, what kind of shenanigans can they come up with, fantasy booking, all that kind of fun stuff. So yeah, I would have like something fresh, something new. But again, we got El Desperado as the number one contender for Doki's championship title. Again, we don't need it. I really do want Doki versus Master Wato. Master Wato is long overdue to hold a championship title. He has definitely improved. Unfortunately, he was recovering from an injury that set him back. So now he's slowly getting back into wrestling. And I think that he is a champion. I don't know. Someone in the comments, tell me down below. But yeah, that's my take on the whole entire El Desperado versus Taiji versus Sho versus Kosei Fujita for the number one contender spot to fight Doki at a later date, because I don't know when this is going to happen. And my little mini rant about commentators, do not try to be an activist, man. Don't try to be an activist. Just commentate professional wrestling for the love of the game, for the love of the sport, for the love of the sports entertainment. Stop trying to be an activist. No one cares. We watch wrestling to escape. We don't watch wrestling to tell us how to be a good moral person, how to be superior, how to be a bully. We don't watch wrestling for that kind of stuff. If we wanted to watch that kind of stuff, it would be watching the news 24/7 on repeat with no change in sight if we wanted to do that. But professional wrestling is not your playground to be an activist. You can talk about things. You can tell people that there are obstacles that you're facing and this is how we overcome them. But you could tell them in a very good storytelling way that doesn't feel like a lecture, that doesn't feel like you should be doing this because I am doing this. Last time I checked, I am not you. You are not me. That is what the other side of the wrestling bubble sphere needs to understand, that you are you and no one else is like you. No one else is going to be thinking like you. There's always going to be some person that may feel like they're thinking the same way that you're thinking, but 1% of them don't think like you. And you have to be wary of that 1% in their brain that don't think like you, because the moment that you hear something that doesn't align with the bubble and it bursts, you are going to be irrational and throw them under the bus. I say this from personal experience after personal experience after personal experience after personal experience. So I am talking from experience when I go on these little mini rants. Again, we are all individuals and we have to respect that, and we have to just tolerate each other because we're not always going to agree. But sometimes you might find the oddest thing that you might agree on and just nod along and be like, all right, cool. We agree with that one thing, but not all of us are going to be activists, okay? All of us are going to just be who we are, do what we do, say what we do. And if someone does want to be an activist, do it right. Don't do it brainwashed, but don't do it with professional wrestling. Don't do it. Do not infiltrate the airwaves to whatever fucking bullshit you want to put out there for no reason. Do it in kayfabe. Do it in professional wrestling terms and standards. Don't do it in 2026 current events where everybody wants to deny the obvious shit just so that way they can feel morally superior and don't have to change for the better. Ladies and gentlemen, you have been listening to an episode of the Square Circle Podcast going over Wrestle Kingdom 20 of this Fatal 4-Way match, and I will see you guys on the next one.